Well, hello, this is Barry of Feldman Creative, Barry Feldman, and I have with me today Ben Carpel, and he is the CEO of Sife. Hey, Ben.
Hi, Barry. How's it going? Thanks for having me.
Sife is an all-in-one business dashboard app. I mean, that's not all there is to it, but that's the skinny. And so we are going to talk about using tools such as that and a mentality such that you can create an analytics culture. We're in the data driven era, right? Are you with me on that? Do you think most companies want to become more data driven?
For sure. We've seen, not only our customer base, but pick and choose your information source out there. I think majority of marketing executives will agree or significantly or strongly agree that data-driven decisions in their marketing is necessary for success. It's crucial as things become more competitive. What we've found and what we've seen also is that probably over half of organizations right now, they've said to the enterprise, small or large, there's going to be a vision for how they're going to analyze data. And most marketers, the individuals we talk to as well, think that there's more they can get out of it. It's an underutilized resource or asset that they can take advantage of more. Probably 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10 people we talk to.
Yeah, I'm conflicted here. I dug up some data from CMO.com. It's kind of recent. There's no shortage of data about this idea, and I shared it with you, and here, and we'll share it with our listeners now. 64% of marketing executives strongly agree that data-driven marketing is crucial to success in a hyper-competitive global economy. So we pretty much talked about that.
Yep.
53% of organizations have instituted an enterprise-wide vision for data analytics. That's good. The majority are with us.
Yeah.
And herein lies the rub. 87% of marketers consider data their organization's most underused asset. And so I think that's ironic, or perhaps there's an indication that there's a vision and there's a realization, and they're not the same thing.
Of course. Yeah, exactly. There's a big gap between what they want and what they have as a marketer. And we and many other organizations are here to help start bridging that gap. But I think the stats you just spit out are spot on with what we've observed from our time in the industry and our customers and what they've reported to us.
All right, Ben. Well, we want, marketers to become data-driven and use their analytics to make informed decisions. And therefore, we want them to create that culture from the top down.
Yep.
And I think we've identified in previous conversations and email exchanges the formula, and there's it's kind of a 4-pack of things that lead to success. And the first one is skills. I've read often that companies cite a lack of analytic skills as a barrier to progress in this area. Do you agree with that?
Completely, yeah. And it's not only existing staff, if it's from an existing perspective, and it's the question of human resources. Organizations we're finding that they're investing in training, they're investing in advancement programs to retain and inspire people, but leverage their existing resources. And obviously, there's more and more of an emphasis on recruiting those people to people that have analytical skills or technical skills, and obviously the interpersonal side of things too. So new people coming into the organization, as well as the existing hires, just have to kind of have that domain expertise. Not necessarily the hardcore IT knowledge, but people who have interpersonal skills and they're able to collaborate with the data miners and the IT analysts, data analysts, the BI staff. And what we've seen that become more and more of a trend, especially early this year, but in the past few years as well.
All right, so they need skills, and there's a lack of them, and then they need data, or maybe they need data that they actually have confidence in. And so another barrier is a lack of access to the data and a lack of confidence in the data. It's often said analysts spend more time finding, gathering, and processing data than actually analyzing it. So this is a humongous problem.
For sure. And so a big part of that can help bridge that gap between skills or lack of skills or resources, along with, say, a business or an organization does have a ton of data, is visualization tools. We fall in that bucket. They're really helpful because it allows you to discover an insight or a metric or a knowledge that may otherwise be hidden in billions and billions of rows in the database. So the CMO, the CEO, an executive, or even someone who is ramping up their data analysis training and career advancement can suddenly see an insight through the visualization they wouldn't have otherwise been able to see. That's what Sife helps do. That's what a lot of people in this space do. Just it's made easier by visualizing data. The training, the high level for the board and executives, visualization is such an important tool in today's competitive environment to make the right decisions, to make data available and give people the right resources to make a properly structured decision.
Yeah, billions of rows, that doesn't sound good. Nobody wants billions of rows. And so we have an integration issue too, right? Like the data is marketing data, the data is sales data, the data is whatever. I mean, it's all over the place. And so integration is a part of that.
For sure.
All right, the process, right? Okay, if we're skimming forward in our 4-pack of solutions, we have people with skills that know what they're doing in analytics, and then we have data that we can trust, and then companies, I think, are probably lacking for defined and reliable processes to address their analytical needs. Are you with me on that too?
Yep, exactly. They need, in terms of process, I think of it as they're just ways to identify, ways to priority, ways to say, this is going to be our most important task. This is going to be our most important, priorities for the marketing organization, sales, advertising, etc. The processes themselves, though, they have to be well-defined. They have to be well-defined to begin with, kind of, otherwise it's a garbage in, garbage out situation. And once they're defined, they need to be kind of agreed upon by leadership and promoted from leadership throughout the entire organization. So it's integrating the manager who's the domain expert, who's the decision maker, along with the business the analyst who's kind of visualizing, creating the data. And then you have obviously support from systems and IT and data mining and potentially if the organization is large enough, statisticians. All this is to say the collaboration is key. Whether the organization, if you're a marketer, you may be siloed from group to group, but it's always good to kind of cross-pollinate and look at KPIs, look at data amongst each other's groups. It really helps to facilitate that, okay, these are our processes, these are how we're using the data we have as an organization, how we agree upon what's important, and how we can together collaboratively move things forward.
All right, so if we look at where we've been so far and the intention to become or to make our environment in marketing and sales and what have you data driven, we want everybody in the company to believe in these processes and therefore create an analytics culture. Do companies need to look at it that way?
Yes, and continuously. So it's not a one-time CapEx. It's not a one-time investment of human resources and time and energy. It should be something that people are continually looking at. So we do this. Again, our customers, to use examples, do this all the time. The best in breed, the best in class ones are doing so, where it's not, this is our January review of 2017. This is our process, set it and then forget it. Maybe it's quarterly, maybe it's yearly, but the key is this should not be a one-off investment, a one-off project. The best organizations, as a marketer, if you've got data, you're going to constantly want to refine the models you've developed in order to deploy them effectively and embed them in your decision making. So it's not just we used it one time and forgot about it, but it's a constant thing that's alive. The analytics are there for you. So model them, continuously refine what's working, continuously make sure you're going back to the well of the models you've developed, because sometimes the model can prove it to be invalidated. So you constantly want to, not once it's built, is deploy it and evaluate the results. so you can identify problems, reformulate them if necessary.
All right. Well, Sife, being the all-in-one platform and having a orientation towards simple dashboards, is the product that you've founded and created, and the idea, I think, is catching on, that you make it visual and simple. And so I think as the CEO, you've probably been interviewed by about this before, and it's not the first time you've talked about helping people get started. Your clients are, and your product's not real expensive, so your clients are probably like running the gamut of all different sizes. Is that a true statement?
That's completely true. We have everyone from the solo entrepreneur to the 1 to 10 organization, the 11 to 50, all the way up to the biggest brands and Fortune 500 companies in the world. So it completely runs the gamut of size, as well as end user industry. What we see, though, is when you're signing up as an entrepreneur or when you're signing up as a small or medium organization, it's this acceptance of, we need to start looking at data. We need to start embracing what we have asset-wise and transform this into fact-based logic, or logic-based decision, fact-based decision-making, or logic-based decision-making, I should say. That's the first step as people sign up, is kind of that tacit acknowledgement of, we have something, let's do something really great with it.
Yeah, so I'm going to assume then, since that was a yes, that you get asked a lot, where do we get started, right? So they're not all massive enterprises, and they're like troubleshooting the problems they're already having with analytics and access to them. And so if you do indeed get that question a lot, Ben, we want to be that data-driven company. How do we get started? Do you have a good answer?
First and foremost, it's to open it, if you're the CEO or you're reporting to the CEO, or even further down the totem pole, no matter how big or small or what your role is, just make sure the culture is ready to embrace fact-based decision-making based on data, based on analytics, based on these assets you have. Not to start rely less on intuition, rely more on facts. You do also need, it's not just to say, again, if you're lower on the totem pole or you're in a certain silo, you do need the executive level to get on board with that. So that's CFO, CEO, FO, MO, COO, the entire C-suite, potentially board, because it's very important that it permeates from the top all the way down. And expectations need to be set and managed. If you're going completely into this for the first time and trying to become a data-driven culture, it is important to think of it as a roadmap with stages, and not to set things entirely out of control to begin with. So what that means is potentially starting small, one area that might be a priority for the entire organization, that has enough data that's integrated and consistent, available, that has enough historical data as well, so the insights are actually meaningful, and that, of course, has the potential to generate a high ROI as kind of the guinea pig or the canary in the coal mine.
Yeah, I think that's awesome advice. I think no matter what the big bites that you got to take is in terms of digital marketing or digital anything, people are overwhelmed. And so The advice that you just gave is advice I give often to, pick an objective, pick a reasonably achievable goal and work towards it, and then sort of prove the model. Now, looking back on our conversation, we went down this path that you need the right people with skills, and you need data you can depend on, and you need processes that integrate your data, and ultimately you need to create a culture. Do you think that part of the process is looking back at where you lack for these things?
Yes, indeed, because that is it's certainly a gap. Just as we talked about the gap of what one has versus what one wants from a data culture. When you focus on something you're lacking in data, it's clearly something that there's so many tools widely available, including ours, that you can fill that gap for business area that's lacking in data, that's lacking in fact. Ben, you need the people, you need the tools, and obviously the data to start filling in to address that. To start, when you're picking something that doesn't have data or it does, At first projects, it's going to be under scrutiny, it's under microscope, so you kind of do need to get it right, and that's why you do need people to be on the same page and have the board and C-suite embracing this kind of morphing and metamorphosis for the organization to data. Get everyone clear on the same page, and that if you're looking at, as we call it, the gap of what wasn't there, as Barry, you and I were talking about, the people that you need, the technology, the processes, and the culture, all 3 or 4 of those things can be brought in to fill that in.
Yeah, good stuff. I mean, I think it was a valuable conversation, and we've simplified it because it's a frightening step for a lot of companies, and it need not be. I think, you need tools that simplify it. And so I thank you for your time. I think
Thanks,
interview from which people will gain a lot of insights and be probably more prone to getting started, right? It's certainly a topic that's, discussed relentlessly, but I think, still shows people some pretty high hurdles.
For sure. We've seen the same.
All right. Thank you. This is Barry, and I appreciate the time that I got from Ben, the CEO of Scythe. Thanks, Ben.
Thanks, Barry. Have a good one.